Over 190 beats per minute. So, here we are at the start line of Hampstead Heath. It's my second time at this park run this year. The last time was back in April, where I actually came in as second finisher, though that was through some rather dubious circumstances, as the front runners got lost and actually started a third lap. This is a 2-lap course with a spicy start-finish hill. Looking down the hill at the moment, I can tell you that when you're finishing and having to push back up here, it can make or break for your goal of a finishing position or time. As I was getting started, Bloke asked me about my camera and my YouTube channel. Do make sure to subscribe if you haven't already, especially if you want to see more races with Amelie the dog. I'll link the most recent one of her above. As mentioned, it's 2 laps with quite a lot of elevation. I've said in basically every video recently that I am not a fan of hills. I'm not particularly good at them, and I'm certainly carrying a few more kilos than I used to, which doesn't help. So today, the goal is to simply get a sub 20. Potentially easier said than done. Love to see the dogs sprinting around madly. We'll need to keep an eye out for those.
Are my timekeepers ready? Yep. 3, 2, 1, go!
And we're off. I noticed in Germany that race directors say 3, 2, 1, ParkRun. They didn't say that here today. Let me know in the comments, is that just a Germany thing? I swear I've heard it elsewhere. Anyway, we get off to a strong start. I know I'm not going to be leading this pack, so I just want to set my own pace. I back myself on the downhills, especially on a smooth trail like this. But I quickly drop back as the faster boys go through, especially as we start to climb the first hill. My heart rate is up into the 160s. My monitor was on the blink last week, so we'll see if that continues. Note this lady up ahead coming around the corner. She's just out for a Saturday morning jog, but she's keeping up with the front runners, which is not something you often see. Hills? Definitely not my thing. I'm dropping back into 8th place now as we hit the crest of the first hill. We have a nice long downhill after this, but we aren't even 1 kilometre in, and I'm already feeling it. Without sounding like I'm already looking for excuses, I noticed a real mixture of shoes today. I'm wearing road shoes, the runner to my left is in trail shoes, and someone else looks to be in super shoes. We'll have to see what was the best choice by the end. On the topic of super shoes, I don't have the best track record, having last won a pair at the Berlin Marathon in September. In an attempt to resolve the issues I had, I'm going to be taking a pair of scissors to mine when I race a 10k in January, so be sure to subscribe to see how that goes. Down this hill, I'm opening up my legs and letting gravity do the work. It's a beautiful morning in London, cold, but as ever, I'm in my shorts and vest, representing Berlin Harriers back in my adopted hometown. The bloke to my right is rocking what my friend Rachel calls this classic cross-country kit, short sleeves and running gloves. Gloves were a good idea on this frosty morning. The first kilometre was a 3:35. That's probably too fast, but 2/3 of it was downhill, so maybe it's alright. A sustainable effort, but don't expect every split to be that fast. The heart rate is showing the effort though. Hitting the 170s after just 1 kilometre is not necessarily where I want to be, but probably required if I'm going to get that sub 20. We're on to the second hill now. This one is a real leg killer. It saps all the energy out of you. I'm not gaining on anyone, but I'm not losing distance either. It would be nice to stick with this pack of 4, but my heart rate is now teetering towards the 180s. Although it's a lovely day to be out for a run, even if you are coughing your lungs up. Beautiful low sun there. A small moment of respite as we're going through a little dip on this flat before we go on another downhill. There's very little true flat on this park run, however I think it's part of the fun. Across to the right, I can already see the front runners taking that corner down at the bottom of the hill. For me today, it's not about finishing position, it's just about getting a good time. If I can keep it under 20 minutes, I'd be ecstatic. With that 3:35 first kilometre, it's looking likely. I've got 25 seconds in the bag.
Cheers, Marshall.
I always thank the marshals as I go for the third hill of the day. This one's only a short, sharp one, and not even that sharp if I'm honest. Having just done the previous one, my legs and lungs are still burning. And as that runner almost gets taken out by an excited dog, we come up to 2 kilometres with a 3:59. That's 1 second quicker than the pace needed to hit my 20-minute goal, but I've not really added to my time cushion. Perhaps I went out too quick, and I'm paying the price now. Heart rate is right into the 180s. This is not likely to come back down because, as I said, it's rolling pretty much the whole way. I'm just going to be going along this straight now, and then we'll start the second lap. But as you've seen already, there's very little flat where I can recover. Although, there we go, my heart rate dropped down below the 180s. Oh, no, that was just my heart rate monitor bugging out. 175, 182, 174, yeah. There's a little error there, isn't there? And as I worry about that, I get overtaken or undertaken, and I'm probably back into 7th or 8th place now. With the hills, it's quite hard to stick to a consistent pacing on this course, and as a result, I wasn't really looking at my watch at all. It's so up and down that the 3:35 first kilometre just felt good because it was mostly downhill. Halfway point as we start our second lap. If you haven't been to London before and want to do a park run, this is a beautiful option. It doesn't feel like you're in the city. It feels like you're in the countryside, so if you love greenery and hills, this is 100% one for you. I see my heart rate dropping down to 159. That is another dodgy heart rate monitor reading. Okay, it's popped up to 179. I have since factory reset my heart rate monitor, so hopefully in future videos we're not going to see the same bugging out. Maybe there was a little more downhill in that kilometre, but as that was a 3:53, it's hard to say if that's good. I mean, it still brings us under the 20 minutes, but I don't have massive time to play with. I think we have about 33 seconds buffer, and I could easily lose that on the final hill. With just 3 hills left and only 2 kilometres, that's barely 8 minutes of pain. But the bloke in front is pulling away quite comfortably. I think a large part of it is just me dropping back and starting to feel it. I really don't have the fitness. I'll be honest, I've been neglecting the track work and the speed sessions, and I think it's starting to show in my pace. Catching the back markers as we have to start to dodge and dive. However, it's lovely to see so many people out on a Saturday morning, enjoying the park and getting a good workout in. Going up this hill, there's a little bit of a roadblock from this group of 3, but I'm going to dive around on the right hand side. Of course, we meet traffic coming the other way as well. Fortunately, the grass isn't too wet or damp. I used to go to the ParkRun at Tooting Common a lot when I lived in London, and for that one you do not want to be stepping off the path in winter. It was an absolute mud bath, but with a narrow path you invariably had to overtake on the grass, and it turned into more of a cross-country scramble. Actually, that's where I set my PB, so maybe I shouldn't slate it too much. Although I do think my PB was set in summertime, when the grass wasn't muddy. The running in front has definitely pulled away from me now. Coming around this corner, I'm opening the legs up and trying to gain on him a little bit while we have gravity on our side. But he's taking advantage of it just as much. Penultimate hill then. I'm getting overtaken. Oh, I'm not getting overtaken. Kilometre 4 was a 4:03. I'm definitely dropping back. Hopefully these runners are pacing a little better than I am, because this is getting painful and it's not pretty. Are we going to see someone get almost taken out by a dog again? No, thankfully that dog manages to stay out of the melee. So I have 30 seconds to play with. It's going to be tight, because if you haven't seen this course before, just wait until you see the hill you have to conquer. In fact, it's the same hill we started on, except it's even longer. They add on an extra little bit at the end, giving you just a tiny little flat to sprint to the finish. Not that I think I'll be doing any sprinting today. Hugging this left-hander as tight as possible because I do not want to be taking any extra meters, although I say that and then have to steer around these park users. Now, if you ever do Hampstead Heath parkrun, please note it's 2 laps. As I mentioned, I managed to nick myself a 2nd place here once because the guy in 1st place was miles ahead and went and did a 3rd lap. He headed off to the right there when he should have been going around to the left. Our final downhill before our final uphill. It looks like the 2 in front of me are long gone, so I'm just going for time now, and it's going to be tight. Okay then, here we go, final hill. This is where, I'll be honest, I really felt I could have been wearing trail shoes. My feet weren't fully slipping, however they were not getting the traction I wanted. When your heart rate is up into the 180s, despite what my heart rate monitor might be saying, and you're trying to give it your all at the end of a 5k, anything which isn't perfect is just demoralising. 200 metres to go and we're about to come through what was the start line. This is where the first time I ran it I thought the finish line would be, but we still have another 100 metres to go and it gets even muddier. I look back and unfortunately there's someone on my tail. I'm going to have to kick again. This isn't just going to be a cruise to the line. Head down, driving those legs forwards, getting every last ounce of effort out and trying to sprint. My heart rate is getting close to 190. Honestly, it's painful to watch back knowing how hard I was pushing, but how slow it was in reality. But I was pushing as hard as I could. I'm going to dip over the line, and there we go. That was tough. So, how did I do? I had 30 seconds in the pocket, and I managed to lose 20 of those in the final kilometre. However, that still puts me 10 seconds under for a 19:50. Very pleased with that. I don't really deserve any better, so I'm satisfied. Anyway, do give me a follow along, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.